So today we're going to cover what great coders have in common with med students. So join us and listen in. So what do great coders have in common with med students? Well, after years and years of rigorous and challenging education, doctors become residents, which means they go to learn at a teaching hospital. Uh, Basically, even though these medical professionals have gone through years of that training, they're still not ready for the field. And a residency is going to provide direct supervision and feedback for that doctor so that they're working alongside a very experienced professional, regularly and routinely getting feedback and perspective on how they're doing as a medical professional. A residency is super structured and super scheduled. Residents are some of the hardest working professionals out there in the working world. They work crazy hours and they have lots of demands on them because the medical profession requires them to be sort of exposed to all kinds of different and challenging scenarios. So more time intensity is important as they're working up to becoming an established professional in the field. And part of that is really learning from the situational wisdom and perspective and experience of an already established doctor, right? They just have years of encountering different and interesting medical situations, and they're going to be able to provide that perspective and guide the resident through their own development as a medical professional. And what that's going to do is ultimately stretch the limits of what those folks can do because they're being intentionally and structurally challenged on a day in and day out basis. And this is what's known in the academic circles as the zone of proximal development. A residency is going to push those doctors out of their comfort zone and make them uncomfortable intentionally so that they are being pushed to the extent of their competence and even beyond so that they can become a better professional. And this may sound familiar to you. It may not sound unlike an apprenticeship. And apprenticeship is not a new concept. In fact, some of the smartest people in our history learned through a similar model. AKA, you may recognize the gentleman here. This is Leonardo da Vinci. And with all of his great art and creativity that he expressed later in his career, you may or may not know that he started in an apprenticeship with an already established artist, helping him to expand his name and his practice. So apprenticeships are not a new thing, and medical residencies are not unlike an apprenticeship. And apprentices in apprenticeships are also very common today in the trades. If you're an electrician or a framer or a plumber, you're usually going to start as an apprentice so you can learn situationally from those that have already established themselves in the field. And we're starting to look at apprenticeship and this sort of teaching methodology in new and interesting ways. And one of the masters in the field that wrote wonderful, wonderful works around this concept of deliberate practice was named Anders Ericsson. And he has a wonderful book about these types of modalities of learning called Peak. And I highly recommend it if you want to learn quickly and efficiently about a new career, a new area of practice. So all this is well and good, but how do we apply this to learning to code? Well, residents learn from experienced doctors. You can learn from experienced developers. I've been in the field for 26 or so years at this point. I've seen a lot in terms of different projects and different problems that we had to solve. So our situational awareness and just our wisdom as we get further into the field of software engineering, you can be a huge beneficiary of that if you're just starting in your learn to code journey. It's really vitally important for you as a budding software engineer to regularly get feedback and adjust your approach on your code. Like literally somebody's got to pull up that code and look at it and give you advice and perspective on how you can make it better. Otherwise, you're really missing out on achieving that zone of proximal development, right? Feedback is going to help you push those boundaries of your competence so that you can discover new ways of solving problems. It's also extremely important. If you saw it in the residencies, right? There's extreme demands on the time of the residents. One of the things that we see with aspiring software engineers is they don't put the reps in. They don't structure the time, right? You really need to schedule time out and stick to a schedule. Vitally important for you to be successful in your learn to code pursuit. The other thing that a resident has is somewhat lowered stakes. They're still dealing with life and death situations, but they have an experienced doctor and mentor to consult with to get advice and perspective. So the stakes are lowered. In your software engineering education, you don't want to be messing with apps that are in production that could go down and cost companies millions of dollars, right? If the service is out or there's an error in the code that allows people to get the code for free or get the software for free, right? So find ways in your education to lower the stakes. Work on contrived projects. Work on passion projects, right? It's really important to bring down the risk again so that you can stretch into your zone of proximal development. And that's really what it's all about, is creating conditions that are going to make you uncomfortable. And I know that that's hard to hear, and that's why I left it here as the last item is your zone of proximal development is also going to be your zone of discomfort. Anything that is stretching the limits of your competence is going to cause some discomfort. It's not going to be rainbows and unicorns all the time, but that's where the growth is. That's where the learning is. So if all of that is overwhelming to you and you don't necessarily know how to structure a learning like an apprenticeship, well, we've got a product for you. So Launch Academy runs a course that teaches everyone that wants to become a professional software engineering professional. It will teach you everything that you need to know to launch your career in software development. And we've helped over 1,000 folks launch their career through a very structured and intentional process, very much like a medical residency. If you want to learn more, you can download our syllabus at launchacademy.com/syllabus. And I highly recommend checking out the book Peak. Like any learning pursuit, learning to code is something that requires a lot of intention and thought. And one of the best things that you can do in any learning journey is to first plan how you want to learn. And Peak is a great book for giving you some great takeaways on how to approach your learn to code journey. And as always, if you found this video useful, please like and subscribe. We're going to be regularly producing videos just like this to help you decide if a software engineering career is for you. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.